Well, good morning. Good to see you all here on a chilly, windy winter morning. It's not technically winter yet, but we are in Judges 19, the last section of the chapter. This is one of the it is the darkest narrative in the book of Judges, which has its share of darkness. And I think it's running neck and neck with anything you could compare it to in the Hebrew Bible, just for a showcase of pure evil. So that's what we're looking at this morning. Part of me wishes we could just skip by this, but it's central to the rest of the narrative, and of course it's God's Word, so we'll do what we can with it. Just a review quickly here, if you've not been with us recently. Benjamite War is actually at the beginning of the Judges period. And the way we know that, we talked about that some last week. It comes at the end of the book of Judges as far as the text goes. But we actually have two events at the end of the book that have to do not with individuals per se, but with larger groups. We looked at the Danite migration before this, and now the Benjamite War. That's what this event with the Levite's concubine turns into. And the text will tell us in the next chapter that the high priest at this point is Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron. And we can read more about him actually prior to the entry into the land. The beginning of the conquest. We talked about that a week ago. So that's it gets us pretty close to the beginning of the Judges period. Just a quick geographical review, maybe a little bit of history. The guy that is the focus of our story is a nameless Levite, and he is living in the remote hill country of Ephraim. That probably means not along the major ridge route, which was a road going along the ridge north to south, the road of the patriarchs, sometimes called, but instead likely either to the west or back here to the east in country that's more rough and therefore not as easy to get to and not as many people living there. But we have no town associated with him. We saw last week he took a concubine from Bethlehem and brought her home. She ran off, went back down to Bethlehem. He went down and spent several days wooing her back, making friends with her father, and then eventually mid-afternoon left Bethlehem, traveled up. They went past Jerusalem. He suggested perhaps they should stay there. His servant said, no, we should stay with Israelites in an Israelite town. And so they traveled on up to Gibeah. No one invited them in. They entered the town, were in the town square. Nobody showed them hospitality until an old man came in from the field, and he also was an outsider. He was from Ephraim. He was an Ephraimite, but living down here at Gibeah. And he said, what are you guys doing? Don't stay in the square. Come into my house. And that was where we left them in verse 18, Judges 19:18. Sorry, I told you the wrong verse. That was ended with verse 21. He took him into his house, gave his donkeys fodder, washed their feet, and they ate and drank. And so that's where we pick up. Judges 19 and verse 22. while they were making merry, which to me sounds a little bit like Christmas, but they were having a good time together. It was peaceful, pleasant, and then that is interrupted. The men of the city, certain worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding the door. And they spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have relations with him." This is shocking. I don't know if you can put yourself a little bit in this position that you're enjoying a meal, you feel safe and secure in this guy's house, and then pounding on the door. The guy clearly did not have, the homeowner, a Beretta or an AR-15 or a shotgun. He may have had some farm tools, but you can't defend yourself in a situation like that. You either answer the door or they break down the door. It seems like this phrase, the men of the city, implicates the entire male population of the city. It doesn't seem like there was a righteous faction and an evil faction. It's the men of the city. And they are worthless. Their request violates at least 3 fundamental moral laws. The first would be the law of hospitality. The Israelites were commanded to show hospitality not only to one another, but even to foreigners who entered their land. We've looked at some of that before. Their request violates the law against sexual intercourse outside of marriage and the law against homosexuality. In case you didn't read between the lines there, they want to know him, and that is sexual intercourse. Not only is it homosexuality they wish to pursue, it's involuntary on the part of at least the victim. I struggle to come up with words to describe how evil this is, what they wish to do. Let me pause for a moment before I go further here. We actually know where this city was located. You can see it on the map here, but it's just a few, maybe 3 miles north of Jerusalem. Actually, from Jerusalem, you can see this place and vice versa. Of course, the ancient city is no longer there. This is the mound that was the city. In the middle of it is if you go back to, Israel became a nation in 47, 48. There was a war when the British pulled out to see where the boundary line would be. Jordan, across the river to the east, pushed back, so there was battle on a particular day, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the date was. Whatever the lines were at that time, that's where they were permanently. And the Jordanians took this hill, and so it was part of their territory. King Hussein of Jordan decided he would build a palace there, and that's what that structure is. He began pouring concrete, and of course, prior to that, he shoveled everything else off the top of the hill. But we have some pictures from before he did that. This is if you go there today, this is what you see. It was going to be a 3-story. He got 2 stories roughed out. It's all just concrete. This is a photo from the air of that same hill in 1931. And this was, it looked like a pyramid sort of thing, what's left there, is the fortress that was built there by King Saul. You might remember that Saul was from Gibeah, and Gibeah, his hometown, was his capital as long as he was king. And so he had a fortress, kind of a palace there. This was taken about 3 years before King Hussein shoveled everything off. They did a little bit of excavation work, and this is kind of the interior of that place. It's too bad you can't go see that stuff today. Now, of course, King Saul is a couple of centuries later than the time of the Levite. But this hill that you're looking at is the place where these events took place. Okay, so they come and they knock on the door. The old Ephraimite man replies in verse 23, Judges 19:23. Then the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said, "No, my brothers, please do not act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this folly." So he attempts to reason with them. And of course, a significant part of what he's saying here is, I'm showing him hospitality. He is my guest. I have some responsibility to see to his welfare. And then we have verse 24. Here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. Please let me bring them out to you, that you may ravish them and do to them whatever you wish, but do not commit such an act of folly against this man. And of course, we struggle understanding the rationale of this. Let me say first, I think this Ephraimite has very little negotiating power. He does not have friends, support. He is old. It's the men of the city that have come to him and made this demand. He does not have much to work with. I'm not excusing anything he does. I think I'm just stating a fact. He doesn't have many options. Had he tossed out the Levite, would it have ended there? It's an open-ended question, but if they can take him, they can take anybody. So he's at least trying to do some negotiation, I think. And my favorite commentator on the book of Judges, Daniel Block, suggests that the host's honor is at stake. Like, I invited this guy in, I must protect him, and that this is not an issue to him simply of justice or morality. It seems like, and we're reading between the lines here a little bit, but to this old Ephraimite man, heterosexual rape is preferable to homosexual rape, and he can't betray his obligation as male guest. Again, that's not an excuse, but I'm not real sure what his other options would have been either. I mean, just say no? Unfortunately, unlike Lot, he didn't have a couple of angels at his side. Block thinks that both of these guys were likely unarmed, and I think that's true. Or, maybe a little dagger or something, or a household utensil, but it is remarkable, I think, that the old man is willing to sacrifice what is presumably his most precious possession, gift, if you will, his daughter, in order to save his guest. Now, we don't hear any more about the daughter in this narrative. But he doesn't just say, take his concubine. He says, my daughter and his concubine. Yeah. So, verse 25. The men would not listen to him, which I would assume means they kept at their request for the Levite man to bring him out so they could rape him. So the man, the old Ephraimite man, well, I guess it's not entirely clear here. The man seized his concubine and brought her out to them. The pronouns there, it's hard to tell if the old Ephraimite man seized the Levite's concubine, or if the Levite seized his own concubine. Somebody pushed her out the door. Second half of verse 25, they raped her and abused her all night until morning, and then let her go at the approach of dawn. Once again, that the verb raped, it's literally the Hebrew. They knew her. That's kind of a euphemism for the sex act. Abused her, that's a word to injure someone or to treat them violently. And then they let her go, discarded her. It's literally to send away at the end of the night. Verse 26, as the day began to dawn, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was until full daylight. 27, when her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, then behold, his concubine was lying at the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let us go." But nobody answered. Then he placed her on the donkey, and the man arose and went to his home. This is told in a very brief and cryptic way, and I would just ask you to think about this for a moment. This sounds, in one way, very brusque and cold-hearted. But let me suggest a couple of things. One is that this man, he may have had no hope of ever finding her. He has come to the realization that he is in a town that is ruled by evil. And I think he considers it questionable whether he himself will be able to leave the town. He waits, the text tells us, until full daylight. That gives you your best chance. People who do evil prefer to do evil in the dark. Ask any policeman, sheriff, when are the big problems? It's not at noon. It's at 2, 3 in the morning, because people love darkness in order to do evil. So he waits for full daylight. I don't know if you've thought about or how you would envision the old man and the Levite spending that night, but they're not in a soundproof room on the whatever bed Hilton provided. They're listening to whatever's going on in the town. And I guarantee you that was not a restful night, and my bet would be that neither one of them slept a wink the entire night. It's just a horrific thing. Husband to master, yeah. In our brain, it changes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She's a concubine, which implies he had a wife, maybe, other than her. But yeah, it could be. So just a couple of quick things. There's not a Hebrew word for husband other than man. So the word that you would use in any context for man, ish, is the same word. Anytime you see husband, it's just ish. It's just man, her man, perhaps. Lord or master is an interesting one because, well, you're familiar. Sorry, it's out of the New Testament. Sarah called Abraham Lord, and it's another common word that is sometimes translated as husband. So I'm hesitant to read too much into that, but yeah, perhaps it's a good observation. I wonder why the English translators, they're so forward. They're like, we're not even going to translate husband anymore because we hate the guy. Yeah, you wonder. Somehow this woman is able to get back to the house, still alive, drags herself to the doorway, but that's where she collapses, and that's where he finds her in the morning. This is not the kind of thing that we are very familiar with, in part because it's so distasteful and you don't want to think about it or deal with it. In our modern culture, this is also a horrific type of crime. I did do just a little bit of research wondering about this kind of thing. It's essentially gang rape. And even with modern medicine, from what I read, about 20% of people who are gang raped today die. And I'm not going to go any further into that, but just to say, really, this is not unexpected. I'm glad the narrator doesn't go into any other detail because it's horrific stuff. It is hard to imagine a worse way to die. The text doesn't tell us any of the emotional state of the Levite, what his reaction to this is. He sees her there, he says, "Get up." Nobody responds, the Hebrew literally says. And so he puts her body, she's obviously deceased already at that point. He puts her body on the donkey. Verse 29, when he got home, when he entered his house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine and cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, just literally bone by bone, and sent her throughout the territory of Israel. This is also a very grisly act. Do you make any connections here with any other Old Testament story? No, that's not Old Testament, John. British history coming out. No. And I didn't throw a picture in here. Saul. The men of Jabesh Gilead were faced with this, you become our slaves and we'll put out your right eye. And they said, give us 7 days or whatever it was, and sent to Saul. Saul did this with a couple of cows, cut them up and sent pieces out. It's kind of an interesting parallel. And then I think I've got this on your handout, an interesting document from Mari. Mari is on the Euphrates River. It's in modern-day Iraq, ancient site. They discovered a bunch of cuneiform documents there. This one's about 1800 BC, so many centuries before the time of the Levite here. To my Lord speak. Bachdi Lim, your servant, speaks as follows. For 5 full days I've waited for the Hananians, but the people don't gather. The Hananians have arrived from the steppe and established themselves among the settlements. These are invaders coming in. Once, twice, I have sent word to the settlements, and the appeal has been made, but they have not gathered together, and for the 3rd day they have not gathered. Now, if I had my way, a prisoner in the jail should be killed and his body dismembered and transported to the area between the villages as far as Hudnim and Apan, in order that the people would fear and gather quickly. And I could make an attempt in accordance with the command which my Lord has given to carry out the campaign quickly. Interesting, a very similar, now he's wishing, we don't know if this actually happened, but he's thinking the same way. If I send out body parts, it's going to get people's attention. And they're going to come to my aid, and we'll be able to push back these foreigners. It's pretty similar, actually, to what the Levite does here. Of course, this is with his own concubine. Now, of course, you can read between the lines here. He had help, probably people from his village, messengers that would take a shin or a forearm or a hand and start moving down the road headed for a particular tribe. And when they get there, hold up a hand, a foot, an arm. I think I would prefer to carry a smaller piece than like a thigh. Sorry, this is really, really grisly stuff. And that's going to generate questions. What are you doing carrying around a body part? Well, let me tell you. And recite for them the story of what has taken place down in Benjamin. Again, it's a grisly scene. I would take one thing from it, though, that this Levite is not, lost my concubine, have to look for another one. He's not okay with what has happened down in Benjamin. In fact, I think you can say he is incensed, and rightly so, for a variety of reasons. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. So technically, there's 13 tribes because you've got the 12 sons, and then out of Joseph, you have Ephraim and Manasseh. So 2 out of the 1. It's a good question, though. Is 12 intended to represent everybody, including Benjamin, the tribe in whose territory this happened, or did they not call Benjamin? Because they're going to go here before long and confront Benjamin. So, our last verse, Verse 30, it came about that all who saw it said, nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it and take counsel and speak up. So it had its effect. People are not just sitting around the campfire saying, did you hear that story? Wonder if that's true. Well, I hope it's not. And of course, nothing like that would ever happen around here. Okay, anybody else got a good story? That's not what's going on. People hear this, and presumably at least some of them see the body part that was sent to their tribal territory, and they're shocked. They are also incensed, if you will. And of course, I'm gonna end here, but this then is the background for the huge battle that comes up in the next chapter that nearly wipes out the tribe of Benjamin. Oh, good. For once I'm not over. Well, this chapter of all, I'm good with that. Some food for thought. It's shocking how dark the human heart can get, and not just an individual, but a community. This is not a single person that has gone over to the dark side. This is a village, a town, and there seems to be within the town no spark of light. Maybe this guy that's sojourning there, this old Ephraimite man, he's the one that showed hospitality, but the rest of the community, and if you think about it, this kind of activity doesn't happen in a moment. Like everybody's good citizens, and then all of a sudden one evening, they all group together and say, there's a foreign guy in town, let's go rape him. That doesn't happen. There's history behind this. It's not explained for us, but think about it. There has been evil going on in this town for quite a while that has led up to this event. Has this reminded you of Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah, that's not... pretty much anybody that reads this thinks of Sodom and Gomorrah. And of course, we know what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah just made the attempt. They didn't even carry it out. Here, the Israelites, the Benjamites, have the same thought, and they carry it out. It's worse in many respects than what we read in the book of Genesis.
It speaks a lot about Romans, first chapter there, degrading of the heart, but it also speaks of where, even in our culture, the big movements for the LGBTQ and all of the different things, they
Yeah.
take over.
Yeah. It's good. I'm expecting that this is as shocking to you all as it is to me. And assuming that it is, that's a good thing. This should be shocking to anybody. But dark. Shocking how quickly evil can explode into life. You know, these guys, the Levite, his servant, the concubine, they walk into town unexpecting. And here it is. They are assaulted even while they're not having Christmas, but making merry in their town. There's no other than the lack of hospitality, there's no sign that they pick up on that they are in a bad place or that this is an evil that is about to happen to them.
It says in the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is the cry for justice due to great wickedness and sin. Was there an outcry in this city?
Yeah, was there outcry to God's ear in this city like there was with Sodom and Gomorrah? So the text doesn't answer that directly, but I would say obviously yes. And again, it's because I deduce logically you don't reach this level of evil without some intervening steps. And those intervening steps are themselves evil, and God is fully aware of that stuff, and it would be an outcry to him. So yeah, I think that's a logical deduction we can make. Mhm. See, you do wonder what he knew. Uh-huh. I mean, you can also take that as just he's showing them hospitality that everybody else should have shown. But yeah, you wonder, what did he know? Uh-huh. And I kind of wonder why, if he knows, why is he still there? I mean, who knows? Sometimes extenuating circumstances, it's hard to say, but.
Lot, and going back to Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot, he seemed to have known what was going on in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't seem unaware.
That he offers his daughters.
Kind of similar again, yeah.
If you know, your question's right. Why did he stay?
Why did he stay? Yeah.
It's hard not to read this without your characterizing
Mm-hmm.
as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess along the lines of looking at the man, the Levite, he's a Levite.
Yeah.
Is it not cowardly for him to do that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's shocking, of course, the darkness outside, but I find it shocking too that he would offer another vulnerable person.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been more merciful to slit her throat and throw her out there.
Yeah. 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 I don't want to go too far in my assessment of him, partly because I'm aware that there are different systems of values in place, even among believers around the world. A lot of other countries have a very strong emphasis on honor and shame. That's not so much the case here in America. We're much more of a right and wrong, black and white, shame and honor. I mean, there are issues with us, but they don't play the lead role in our society like they do in some others, and that affects morality. I got the same feeling, Joan. I'm like, go out there and fight to the death. That's better than this. Mm-hmm.
This woman already shamed him, and now he's going to get shamed by these men coming in to attack him,
Yeah,
in a shameful way.
yeah,
And maybe that's too many shames for
yeah.
him.
This entire thing is just ugly. When you have a community of men willing to do this kind of evil, there is no good outcome. Take any route you want, they're set on evil, and yeah, I mean, I feel the same thing. Stick up for your woman. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't have a good answer. Yeah. Evil thrives in darkness. I kind of pointed this out earlier. And this is true both literally and metaphorically. Of course, literally, like I said, ask any police officer, what time of day does most crime happen? Yeah, it's going to be after dark. But this is also reminiscent of a lot of what Jesus says about truth and light. We are sons of light. That doesn't mean we each have a little light bulb following us around. That's a spiritual statement. We are not sons of darkness. So let us do the deeds of light. 1 John, great example, but I mean, Jesus says it other places, many other places as well. John 3:19, Jesus says, men loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Those things go together. And you see that here literally. Paul in Ephesians 5, verse 11, don't participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them. For it's disgraceful even to speak of the things which are done by them in secret. And of course, he's sort of mixing his metaphors there. He's not saying, don't go out coyote hunting after the sun goes down. At least I hope that's not what he's saying. That's not the kind of darkness he's talking about. He's talking about moral darkness. Although the two coincide so often. But it's shameful even to speak of the things that are done by them in secret. And I think this is true. And of course he says, expose them. And that doesn't mean walk around with a flashlight. It means bring the truth. And that is one of the best antidotes for sin, is truth and openness and revelation. And of course that's supposed to result then in confession and forgiveness and absolution, if you will, of sinful stuff. Well, he's addressing just the Ephesian church here. Don't participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them. So I think it's a question of wisdom, but it's a general command, I think, to everybody. Don't be a doer of dark deeds, but be one who exposes that kind of thing. And truth and that kind of light, if you will, is the best antiseptic. I mean, why is it, just to pick a government issue, why is it that the FBI, when they started investigating all these Republicans, did so in secret this past couple of years into the Biden administration? Well, I can tell you why. Because they were embarrassed about it, shouldn't have been happening, doing it on the down low, and all of a sudden somebody, I don't know who, comes in and guess what's been going on? And now people are going to perhaps go to jail, at least go to court. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's a minor example, but yeah, we cover up stuff that is evil, dark, sinful, and truth is the antidote to that. Exposure. So, see, now you've taken me right up to the time. Okay, so from here on, we will have the national response to this very dark episode. The rest of the tribes are going to come in and say, this is not okay. They'll seek God's guidance, and they'll go to war to rectify this, to bring about some semblance of justice. Good. I don't see any hands, so I'm going to pray. Lord, thanks for your word. I pray that you would help us to give consideration here to this story. I pray that you would help us to pull out the right conclusions from this, an understanding of darkness for sure, the evilness of the human heart, including our own often. Help us to be those who expose things to light, because we are your children and we are sons of light. I pray that our own examples as we live would be light-filled, truthful and honest, and obedient to your word. We recognize that is difficult for us to do many times, and so we ask for your assistance there, that you would empower us to live in a way that's pleasing to you. Grant us wisdom, grant us resolve. Help us to be good and faithful servants of yours. In your name I pray. Amen.